He has just one more team remaining, and I think
Yep.
Nikhil is taking that. If I'm not wrong,
Yep.
it is the great Rajasthan Royals. And what went wrong for Rajasthan, and Nikhil will take you guys through it.
Yeah, and while we start about it, you can see the batting numbers are fine, the bowling numbers are fine. So to use the phrase that is often used after RR games, I don't know. Maybe the phrase that you use, what went wrong with them, because you see the boundary counts, they are positive on both fours and sixes. But again, I think that's where they've been they've come stuck. Uh, I think as a side, a lot of us felt that they missed an all-rounder, and they got Jason Holder, and we felt that okay, now Rajasthan Royals will be the complete setup that they have, because you have Joss and Jaiswal up top, Sanju Padikkal, and then you have Hetmeyer and Holder to hold, and you can use Ashwin as well, and you have a bowling attack. But I think for a side as good and as proficient as RR, I think they started great. Within the first, they were on the top of the table, and it looked seemingly rosy. But I think there were clear gaps that were starting to come up, and I think those have come through. So we'll focus on the silver linings of three players later. But I feel they had a lot of self-inflicted problems. One is the lack of clarity on impact players. I felt as a side, it is too stubborn of you to say that I will not use more than five bowling options. Their win percentage when they used only five bowling options this season is 16%. When they had an option, the win percentage shoots up to 71. It is a massive jump, and again, it is something. It's a common sense thing. If the rule is there, you use it for your betterment. Now, if you don't have the player for it, that's a fault of your squad construction as well. So I felt somewhere they were lost in terms of trying to figure a way that okay, we have Trent Bolt up top. Of course, Prasid missed out, but they got a good replacement in Sandeep, and you felt that okay, now they have Sandeep, you get new ball value there. They tried K Massif in certain games, but he went out, and that's where I felt the problems began for them. Holder was hardly used. So again, in the potential release, Holder is the first person that goes out because you've hardly used his batting. So in terms of batting, they were always sorted that okay, we have a top four. In that too, you felt a lack of clarity in terms of there is a great, of course, firstly the article that Anirudh has put out on Sanju Samson, which will tell you exactly half the reason was RR have struggled in terms of getting to those power scores, because these are all the small things that made them change their strategy. They were a side, they were very keen on batting first, but because the results did not come their way, they lost close games. They were like, okay, now it's not working, let's try chasing. But eventually they lost 5 games chasing as well. And in all of those games, there was a pattern that Josh Butler, their key player last year, had the worst season while chasing. He had an average of 9.3 in chases. That is, you can take it. It will not happen that a guy scoring 800 plus will have another very great season. But my problem with RR was they never had an option for it. They went with the similar approach that will keep going top hard, but Jaiswal saved them in a lot of games. Sanju Samson's form will, I'm sure it is open for debate that how long can you keep going at the same rate, and you can improve as a spin, but you have one of the worst records versus pace. So the dismissal for there was a pattern to the dismissal as well. Entire Rajasthan lineup had the weakest records against left arm pace. So everybody in the top four, Josh Butler, Devdutt Padikkal, Sanju Samson, and Jaiswal, all of them struggle against left arm pace, and you could picture left arm pace getting those batters out. So I felt in terms of options, Rajasthan were always too rigid that okay, this is the 8 9 players, and this is the players that will back. So it's a similar problem to what I felt RCB had, that after the top three, you are eventually playing Padikkal as a finisher. You back Rian Parag, which I think is a fair way to go with a youngster that okay, you gave him enough time, enough games to come good. Whether it comes good or not, at least you can say that we gave him time. But I think that inconsistency in terms of backing was with the bowling, because Kuldeep Sen played handful of games. Kuldeep Yadav played handful of games. Obin Makai was injured, fair call. You can't do anything about it, but you did not replace him as well. So I felt there were a lot of calls which were self-inflicted in terms of the captaincy. the decisions that were taken to bowl Kuldeep Yadav in the 19th over. You use again, if there was injury, then you could have rotated your bowlers better. Not using a Jason Holder against Bangalore, 10 when needed of 2 balls, and you get an Abdul Basit who's playing his first ball of the season. So there is a very thin line being confident and being very brave and falling on the other half. They had an excellent find in Dhruv Jorel, but it doesn't always happen. Teams really don't discover players just like that. Rajat Patidar is a similar example with RCB, that he came in and immediately made impact. Dhruv Jorel came in and he immediately made impact. So it will not always happen for you. So I felt for the squad that RR have, it's not a squad that you will see a lot of people go. I just felt they just had to fix the smaller problems and which are actually having a cascading effect on the entire balance that they have. So these where I feel the problem in terms of consistency with the bowling, because you see only Chahal is there in the top wicket takers, nobody else. Trent Bolt may have done great in day games taking wickets early, but that did not result into anything. And then the inconsistencies of you play Sandeep Sharma as a death bowler, he does well, and then you suddenly go to bowling him 3 in the power play. So I felt a lot of things where, to put it in the terms of Zebis Dhoni, they did not control the controllables. So we'll get to the silver linings, of course, in Jaiswal and Chahal.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a fine point to add. I mean, if you guys can hear me, and apologies
Yeah.
for the audio issues at my end. I personally feel that RR are the most unluckiest team to miss out, because if you look at their boundaries, they're net positive on both fours and sixes, and they are the only team to have that. So that means they were balancing, they were doing the basics of T20 right. The basic of T20s is to hit more boundaries than you concede. So they were good on that front. I think they lost out because on most games, they were 11 men playing versus a team of 12, because they absolutely had no clue of how to use the impact player rule, or nor they had enough trust in their impact player or the role definition of how they want to use that impact player in certain games. Nikhil, you spoke about the pace bowling unit. I have a few numbers here. They have this. Their Pacers have the second fewest number of wickets, and but with the worst balls per wicket record. And their Pacers collectively were averaging 1 wicket per game. So that is absolutely nothing. The only hope for them would be for Prasidh Krishna to return next year to bring some semblance. But apart from that, yeah, I mean, pace bowling was an area. Apart from obvious ones like Butler not uh, performing as per his skill, and Hetmeyer's form dipping down towards the business end, and Samson obviously his overall approach of how to construct his innings. But yeah, these were a few reasons which I felt that really let RR down.
One
Yeah,
thing
but
that Nikhil mentioned about Obaid McCoy, it brought me, it reminded me of something what they did last season also. Nathan Coulter-Nile was in the squad. He got injured in the first game itself. And I think till the 10th or the 11th game, they did not name a replacement. They didn't even look for a replacement. And Sanju Samson is, I don't know how to, what to say and how to sum up his season, because in absolute numbers, the average of 30, strike rate of 150 plus looks good. But there were there were at least 2 3 games where you felt that he could have really finished those games and took the team across the line. That the game versus RCB in Bangalore, he had started off well and he had played out Hasaranga, who was supposed to be the biggest negative matchup for him, and then he just got out playing a very cheeky shot. Then the game where they got all out for 59, again you felt that that shot wasn't needed, the shot wasn't on. So with Sanju, I also think that number 3 is not his best position. I mean, I understand you wanting to impose yourself on the game, or you want to you want to dominate from ball one, but when you're batting in the top 3, and you know that your the batting to follow is a little circumspect, you have to you know take into account what the situation is. It's become a cliche that you want to play fearless cricket for a lot of teams, but what you really need teams to play is adaptive cricket. Fearless cricket will not work, especially if the pitches are not conducive to it. That there's a reason why Rajasthan struggled at Jaipur. There's a reason why teams this season have not been able to win games at home. One is because they've had batters who will not suit that pitches, and when you realize that, you have to change your game accordingly. So there's that. And yeah, I mean, it's just been it, you spoke about them having a net positive in terms of boundaries, but if anything, they still have themselves to blame in terms of whatever stuff they were doing and how they lost matches. They lost 7 games. Three losses were for under 10 runs. Then there was the loss versus Sunrisers, which was again, uh, you know, o- in the last over, which they had no business losing after, having to defend 41. Then there was that game versus Mumbai in Wankhede. So these 5 games that they've lost, they could have easily won had they just done the basics right. But you know what Nikhil said throughout the tournament, they just were too cute, to use Nikhil's terminology. Wanting to try out stuff for the sake of it. I can understand wanting to try out stuff when it's not working. Okay, but they just wanted to try out too many things without really realizing that what is it that they are trying to achieve. It's and In terms of what Nikhil had mentioned about Jason Holder, I do sincerely hope that for the sake of Devdutt Padikkal, if not for the sake of Rajasthan Royals, that he gets released, because he's clearly he's himself in a very developing stage of his career. If he has to move up and down around the batting order, he's going to struggle. And it's very important for a batter like him that he also doesn't have to start against spin straight away, because this season he's shown frailties in his game versus spin. The dismissals to Piyush Chawla and Noor Ahmed, his feet went absolutely nowhere. And that is you could have the greatest of numbers, but if that is how you are going to play spin, it's going to be very hard for you to convince selectors that you can play for the senior team. So just hope that he's also released for his own development's sake.
Yeah, I think coming to potential releases, I definitely think Jason Ola definitely goes out because any which ways you haven't used him.
Yeah.
Hopefully Joe Root as well. Again,
Mm.
1 CR may not sound too much, but it could help them get a few options with the ball. Both at again, they have too many options in the power play, but you could get a couple of options for the back end and use them in that sense. And of course, you have Dhruv Jurel. You have, I think RR have the options. It is just about fitting the right people at the right places, because there were so many times, as Padi said, you said that Padikkal's best entry point is the power play. Then why is Samson walking out? If you want Samson to take the attack on, send Padikkal in, let him probably say typically anchor, because Jaiswal at the other end was going great guns. He's hit the most force for anybody this season, 82. That's like 13 more than the next best. So his top year charts, among the top people who have batted, top 8 people who have more than 500 runs, he has the second best strike rate, 163. To score 500 plus runs at that strike rate, it is crazy. And then it's okay because you can accept one of two failures from your other players. Like Hetmar went off the boil, Josh Butler went off the boil. But the thing is, they did not have enough people to surround them with. So hopefully, though, they can release these spots and they can get either a local, an Indian middle order option, because they went after Brook, which I don't know how well or worse it could have ended for them. But so I think two definite areas for them is one, a proper death overs bowlers to partner Obed McCoy if they want to play Obed and Trent Bolt both, because then they'll have to do something at the top. Because if you're going Butler, Hetmeyer, Bolt, and Obed, then you need good Indian core in the middle overs to take care of them. So lots to think for RR in that sense, I feel.
Probably they release someone like Murugan Ashwin and try and get a left arm spinner. They don't have a left arm spinner in the squad.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is also fine. But I think the major
Yeah,
concern is their batting.
it's not a major concern. It just
Yeah.
gives them a more option. I think probably uh, they could probably try and get Shams Mulani from Mumbai Indians, because
Yeah,
Shams
and
Mulani
yeah.
is not used,
Yep.
probably could serve them well. So there's that. And
I was about to say they can probably ask Gujarat to give them Sai Kishore because they are anyway not
Yeah.
using him.
Sai
But that's
Kishore
not happening.
final खेलेगा direct.
I have a
It's
question.
only more.
I have a question for all of you. What about Donovan Ferreira and Adam Zampa? You guys keep them, or do you guys release them?
I'll keep
Adam
Donovan.
Zampa, I think should you can keep, because it's only 2 crores. What about Donovan Ferreira?
So with Ferreira, right? I mean, what is? I mean, if you're releasing Donovan Ferreira, is like admitting that you made an error in the auction. That's as simple
That
as
is
that.
that I agree.
At least you need. I don't know how he's going to fit in, but in case Hetmar gets injured in one game, or like
Yeah, yeah,
you try him out,
yeah.
maybe
I think that
if,
I think for them, finding that overseas slot has to be through Joru, and finding the purse has to be through Devdutt Padikkal.
yeah,
Simple as
and
that. And yeah,
the fact that somehow Joe Root ended up playing over Donovan Ferreira, even though I think Ferreira was their number one target in the auction and they got him, that itself tells you that they messed up in one way or another. Not exactly sure whether they wanted, they don't think if Ferreira is not good enough anymore, or I mean, surely he must be better than Joe Root in T20 cricket at least, but
I think it's got to do with the pitches that
conditions maybe.
we saw, yeah, conditions that we saw in the later half, where they felt that maybe Root could add more value
But
against
but
Delhi,
but that again is
especially their home
also
venue. Yeah,
a
yeah,
mistake,
of
right?
course.
You knew
I
that you're
mean,
gonna play in Jaipur predominantly. Then
I
construct a
think
team that is worthy of.
Gurjit knows my thoughts here. I mean,
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
honest, wasting
There's
your
one
overseas slot on players like Root, Smith, and Williamson in itself is an error, in my opinion.
there is one Rajasthan player which we did not discuss and we did not touch upon, who's always in the news on social media.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what about Riyan Parag? Because he's clearly been backed enough, and
Yeah,
he's not delivered. But even in that last game, he again it was just those two sixes, but he showed like those two sixes are enough to tell you that why he was bagged for so long.
Exactly.
So so it's such a difficult place to be in. What do you do with someone like him? Because
I
clearly that
would.
finisher role is not working out for him. And when he's gotten the chance to come in at bat at in the 10th or the 11th over, he's still been able to play substantial innings for them. So just how do you go about him?
I think I would still give him one more season, because even after backing him for 3 years, he's still 21.
Yeah.
So there is a humongous age curve there, and there is a ceiling to be hit. They have to try him in other roles, because right now see at an age of 18, 19, players are moldable, and they've just tried to make a finisher out of him. It has not worked out, but it's
Hmm.
not a case where they've tried him in multiple different spots, multiple different roles, and he's failed everywhere. So I really feel, I mean, they should have a swap between Samson and him based on positions. Samson should
Exactly.
rather take the, because for Samson's own career, right? If he has a vision, obviously he would have that aim for playing for India. And right now, if he wants to play for India, I don't think there is a spot available in the top five or top four. Minimum, he has to bat at five if he wants to play for India in the T20 format. So for Samson's good, for Parag's good, for, I mean, they just should just swap their position, and they should just stick with Riyan Parag for at least one more year. Give him a
Yeah.
run of at least first 10 games, and if he fails at number 3 and 4 even in those 10 games, then maybe you can take a call later on.
Yeah. I'll
It's the
I'll
same.
actually go on to say give him the Ridhiman Saha role that you wanted. With of course you have Josh Butler, so you don't need
Yeah,
to break that, but send him in three
yeah,
and see how
Exactly.
it works out.
It's a if you don't use Samson as a low value wicket, rather
Exactly.
Parag is
Yes.
getting wasted at 6-7
absolutely.
anyway,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
you have Jurel, who's basically another Parag in terms of the role he
Exactly.
plays. Why
Yeah.
do you need
Yeah.
two Riyan Parags in there? Just use
mm,
big
Yeah.
the usage of the players are redundant. So just move Parag to three, give him the license. Like you said, they have nothing to lose. So
Yeah.
if it works out, it great. You persist with him. If it doesn't, then you say that we tried backing you, but it's time we part ways
Yeah.
and move on. That's it.
mm.